Cody is a YouTuber that probably doesn't need an introduction. I don't need to read the Wikipedia article explaining to you who he is and lore dumping. I'm sure most of you are at least loosely familiar with his content. He's been very large on the platform for years now. And recently, some disturbing allegations have come out against him. Now, the allegations against him aren't exactly brand new. They're not, fresh off the battle bus, hot drop in here out of nowhere. They've actually existed for a little while now, but never actually received a lot of coverage or a lot of attention. Kind of just been sidelined with people not knowing about it or not talking about it until yesterday when another YouTuber named D'Angelo Wallace gave some amazing coverage breaking down the entire situation here and going over everything that Cody is accused of.
Someone has been alleging for years now that you, one of the largest commentary creators on YouTube, knowingly committed a crime against her when she was a minor. But YouTubers and viewers alike are ignoring and discrediting these allegations solely because the person making them happens to be an unlikable woman online, Tana Mongeau.
Yikes. Yeah, that's some pretty awful shit right there. That's a huge allegation that actually has a lot of evidence backing it up, which D'Angelo Wallace covers in great detail in this video. It's not some imaginary nothing burger that someone squeaked out between their butt cheeks to try and ruin Cody Ko. It's a serious accusation that appears to have a lot of evidence about it.
I'm not here to accuse you of committing a crime in this video because I can't do that based on someone else's allegations. Nobody can definitively take these allegations as proof, but at the same time, they should still be looked at and not treated as an open secret and swept under the rug like you've been doing for so many years now.
I think that's a great point. Even though these are still allegations with nothing that's been proven, since there is so much supporting evidence around the claims, it definitely is something that needs to be examined thoroughly because it is a huge deal.
And speaking of this podcast, about a month ago, she hosted a live episode in front of an audience, and the conversation turned to you.
Who's the smallest you've ever had sex with?
Oh my God, no one look at me, Cody Ko. I can say that. I was literally 17, I can say that.
This clip started making the rounds and people were understandably perturbed because if Tana Mongeau was 17, you would have been 25. So people started speculating and Tana decided to set the record straight.
I hooked up with Cody Ko when I was 17 and he was 25.
I'm going to go ahead and break down these numbers here because it seems like people are starting to struggle with math, like teriology starting to pop off with 1 times 1 equaling 2 and all of that. I'm just going to go ahead and explain this. 17 is less than 18. Thus, that is below the age of consent and is a crime. And I already have seen comments on this situation about 17, who gives a fuck? That's basically 18 anyway. And it's this same dog shit, brain dead, concerning mentality, like your hard drive needs to be investigated type shit that we saw with Dr. Disrespect, where they're like, no one should really care that Dr. Disrespect was talking inappropriately with a 17-year-old. Even though, once again, you absolute fucking Cro-Magnon, there is no evidence that Dr. Disrespect ever talked to a 17-year-old. Not even he said that. It has only ever been stated as a minor. Everyone around Dr. Disrespect never mentioned 17. It's actual delusional Fantasyland Narnia type shit where people are trying to defend him by saying it was actually a 17-year-old, 364 days old. Which is absolute fucking barnacles. Like, that's a load of fish paste. And even still, it's bad. I don't know how we've devolved so much where all of a sudden 17 is now something people try and justify. So like in this case right here, you'll have some drooling, stinky, bumbling morons in the comments saying how it's not a big deal because 17 shouldn't be an issue. You know, like, age of consent over in this region is actually 16, so really, he waited till she was old. Like, it's craziness. It's actually craziness. It is a crime. It is a minor. Still, it's bad. Like, I don't know why that needs to be explained all of a sudden. Now, something D'Angelo Wallace does make a point of here is pointing out that Tana Mongeau is not well liked. I am sure if you've been on YouTube for any length of time, you've heard her name and seen a lot of less than stellar things about her. She has a history of lying and putting on a lot of bad stuff and bad behavior. However, when it comes to this claim, this doesn't appear to be something that she's just lying about for clout to try and elevate her platform on the back of Cody Ko's good name or anything like that. This is a story that's been told even a few years in the past about this situation here. So this isn't something that she just pulled out of thin air. This is actually an allegation that has existed for a long time that is only just now starting to surface.
She claims that not only were you fully aware of her age at the time, but someone even tried to stop you and you went ahead anyway.
There was a situation with Gabby Hanna at a Playlist Live where she pulled him aside and told him like, yo, she's 17. And then we still went and hooked up.
To be clear, 17 is under the age of consent in many states, including Florida, where Playlist Live used to take place. So this means that Tana Mongeau is accusing you of statutory rape, and she's not trying to hide that.
This isn't just some crazy tea. It was a crime.
Remember how Tana said that fellow YouTuber Gabby Hanna tried to stop you before everything allegedly went down? Well, did you know that Gabby is actually on record telling the exact same story several years ago?
One time, I told a guy, I saw him making out with a girl at a party who was underage, and I pulled him aside and I was like, hey man, you probably don't know, I know she like looks a little older, she's underage, watch it. And he's like, oh my God, thank you for telling me. And then he turned that.
This is really, really bad.
Really, really bad indeed. Pardon my potty mouth here, but this is fucking disgusting. Like, this is by far the most compelling piece of evidence presented, because this is a completely separate third-party individual coming forward now with the same story years ago, exactly how Tana described it. Finding this clip was huge. I don't even know how it was unearthed. Huge props for finding this ancient artifact, because apparently it had been scrubbed from like everywhere. I don't even know how you would have even gone about finding something like this, but I really think it is an important piece to this story. It's a very strong piece of evidence, and it should hopefully showcase that this isn't just something Tana is making up on the spot for attention or anything like that. This is something that has been talked about for years. There's a lot of comments that get shown in the video with people shitting on Tana for bringing this up, like, oh, this is prehistoric. Why would you ever bring this up now? You just want attention, you absolute harpy. Oh, who cares? This is bullshit. It's all a lie anyway. All you do is lie. Liar, liar, plants for hire. You harlot. Those kind of comments, like unhinged people about this. And I really think that this Gabby Hanna clip that's been provided should shut that garbage down. Of course, it doesn't prove 100%, the authenticity of everything. As D'Angelo Wallace also explains, these are still allegations. But that is a pretty substantial piece of evidence there that should at least show why this needs to be talked about and should absolutely be addressed directly by Cody.
People make accusations all the time, specifically regarding things that are very difficult to prove or disprove, unfortunate as that may be. But when somebody makes an allegation and they say they have a witness, and that witness can be found telling the exact same story years before any of this came out, that's not something I can just ignore. In a situation that cannot be proven, corroboration by a third party goes a long way. I'm not accusing you of committing a crime, but even if what Tana says is false, your silence is still grossly incompetent at best.
It really is a pretty bad strategy here. This isn't something John Madden would draw up in the playbook. Burying his head in the sand and hoping that the storm blows through doesn't exactly work in a situation like this. I mean, I guess it has up till this point, since so few people were aware of it, but now that it's being talked about more and more, I do think that he's going to need to come forward about all of it. There is quite a bit of time in the video dedicated to the community's response to the allegations, because it is bad how, viewers have responded to all of this. Basically, and it is a good point that D'Angelo Wallace made, because Tana Mongeau is widely disliked by the broader YouTube audience, when she was the one putting these claims out there, people attacked her, dogpiled her for saying things like this. They jumped on her like she had just, killed a puppy in front of them. People responded to her in the worst possible way with these allegations. And Tana made a really good point where she said if this was any other YouTuber she was talking about, one that wasn't as highly regarded as Cody, the response would be completely different, where she'd be getting sympathetic messages and support for coming forward with her experience. But because it's Cody, it's been a biblical smackdown in the comments against her, which is just a crazy response to something like this. I mean, there were some lunatics there, like genuinely hateful people saying the most misogynistic shit you could find in the comment section about this, because she dared come forward with her experience and talk about that situation. Now again, yes, they are allegations. Nothing has been proven. But there is a lot of evidence here that should at the very least get a response from Cody Co about all of this. And it's not like he's not aware of what's happening. As pointed out in this video, he is seemingly censoring his YouTube comment section.
And now you're choosing censorship. On your YouTube channel, where you've been pumping out content nearly every day now, I couldn't find a single comment on your last video about this situation. Not even one. Comparing that to the comment section on your Instagram, where every single comment I saw was about this, it's clear that you're heavily censoring your audience on YouTube.
I actually went and checked this myself because this is a Lego build that you can follow along with at home. I went to his latest upload and clicked newest in the comment section because surely you'd see some now after this is being blown up into a huge story. But even when filtering on his newest upload by newest comments, I still only found a couple of comments that referenced this. So it really does seem like it's being heavily censored in the YouTube comments. Because with how big the story is, you would expect a lot of them, especially when you look at his Instagram. But somehow, nothing on YouTube? Yeah, that's very suspicious. That definitely smells like he is censoring the comments there. So it's not like he doesn't know what's going on here. Tana also said that he had reached out at some point kind of about this, saying like, are we good? So it's not something that he's just unaware of, and that's why he hasn't addressed it. D'Angelo Wallace also points out how he's responded to things in the past, like he paywalled an apology for like an old clip that surfaced where he was using a slur. So he's talking about like the history of responding poorly to situations that Cody finds himself in. And then he brought up this, which I'd never heard of.
Not many people know that you've already lost fans over an eerily similar topic. You used to frequently feature and promote your college friend Colby Leachman in your videos, until it came out that during your school days, Leachman's university put him on probation for, as a United States District Judge would later put it, the non-consensual videotaping of a sex act with another student, showing the video to other people, lying to the police about the video, and behaving horribly to that individual and at least one other woman. To make matters worse, the woman in the video also alleged that Leachman drugged her before the recording and that she hadn't actually consented to anything at all. You had this man in your videos. You were telling us to follow him on Instagram, and at some point you did wise up, so he's no longer part of your content, but he still seems like he's very much a part of your friend group. From the continued hangout since then to inviting him to your wedding just last year, people are under the impression that you're best friends with someone who, at best, committed an illegal sex act and at worst is an alleged rapist. And no matter how many times people rediscover this information over the years, you refuse to say anything at all.
That is baffling to me. Like, it's one thing to be friends with someone who turns out to be a monster, but once you learn that they're a monster, that's where it should stop. I've said this before. If my best friend Matt turned out to have like a secret double life, you know, a Jekyll and Hyde situation where Matt goes out there and he does something truly heinous, I would cut them out of my life. I wouldn't be able to go forward being friends with someone like that. You know, giving him a fist bump saying, hey, we're still bubble buddies, bro. Like, I couldn't do that. So it's so weird to me that Cody can, and when people have talked about it in the past, apparently Cody has just ignored it. That is very, very odd.
I haven't seen a single channel over 1 million subscribers do so much as acknowledge that this situation exists. And I'm not talking about channels that never would have discussed something like this either. I mean the same channels that were rightfully calling out people like Dr. Disrespect for texting a minor, which are the same channels that are now completely ignoring a scenario with an even bigger creator being accused of doing something much worse.
D'Angelo Wallace makes a point a couple times in this video about the silence on this subject being staggering, considering in the YouTube ecosystem there's tons of commentary channels that'll cover a wide variety of topics, sometimes rumors that aren't nearly this serious, you know, like a 2-part docuseries on that time Markiplier allegedly pooped without peeing. Or, in my case, I'll make a whole rant going over how aliens probably aren't visiting us via theoretical warp drives to haunt our boners. And yet, somehow, a story that's this serious just slips through the cracks and didn't have many people talking about it until very recently. So I'd like to at least take a quick moment here to explain why I hadn't covered it. Now, I did hear the whispers about this Cody Co allegation about a week ago now, where someone in stream chat had mentioned, hey, have you heard what Cody Co apparently did with Tana Mojo? And on stream I asked what they were talking about because I hadn't heard shit about that. Eventually another chatter explained that I could find more information about it on Reddit because a conversation was starting to develop around those allegations, so I made like a note of it and then went to bed. The following day I got home pretty late and then went to follow up on things from the previous night, because sometimes during stream I'll make like tabs about what people are telling me to look up. I don't do react content on stream or anything anymore, so if it's like a video that people are recommending I check out to get caught up on something or whatever, I'll make a tab for that video and then watch it when I get back to the following day. And when it came to the Cody Co thing with the Reddit post, by the time I got to it, it was deleted. So I kind of assumed that maybe the claims were just baloney, and I didn't see a whole lot of chatter about it. I saw a couple of tweets that loosely talked around it, vaguely, and I just didn't look into it deeper than that. And I recognize now that that was a mistake, so I'm sorry for that. But I just didn't find a lot of information at the time, until, of course, last night when D'Angelo Wallace posted the video covering all of this. So I know the speculation has been made that the reason people aren't talking about the Cody Co situation is because he's a channel that a lot of people respect and is friends with a lot of the community. So no one wants to speak out against their friend or a channel that they respect so much, thus they're trying to help, bury it or not let it, erupt into the mainstream. For me, that wasn't the case. When I went looking for the info after that stream, I didn't find anything, and I didn't do a big enough dive on it to access it, so I just kind of stopped looking, which, again, was a mistake, clearly. I've talked about Cody Co's content in the past. I've liked his content. I respected him as a content creator, but I'd never say that we were friends or anything. I went on his podcast one time, and I think we only ever talked in Twitter DMs once as well. We weren't exactly like inseparable friends, the best of pals and buddies or anything. Like, I imagine if we walked by each other in a crowded mall, we'd do one of these to each other, and that'd probably be the end of it. This isn't some kind of story that I was avoiding or anything like that. I just truly didn't do enough digging on it because, as D'Angelo Wallace does mention, this story has been pretty successfully buried for the most part, where a lot of people just weren't aware of it, and I didn't do due diligence to become aware of it. But luckily, D'Angelo Wallace did, and created this great video going over all of it. So I wanted to talk about this because obviously it's a very serious situation. Cody Co absolutely should come forward to explain all of it, and if there is another side to this story, tell it. If it's wrong, set the record straight. It's a very upsetting story here that at the very least needs to be addressed by Cody publicly. This can't be another paywalled apology situation or anything like that. This should definitely be something that he comes forward and actually talks about. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Yesterday, iDubbbz posted a YouTube video that's become extremely divisive. I haven't seen people this divided on a singular topic since the red and blue dress debate. The video he posted was basically an apology for the content he made in the past, apologizing for it being hurtful or damaging, and a whole myriad of other things that he wanted to come forward with, and talking about how he's changed as a person and thus his content will be changing. He goes over like insecurities of his past, and overall he just invites the audience into the back of the kitchen to see how the sausage is made and meet the chef. And for a lot of people, they didn't want to meet the chef. He's being very open and honest about his feelings on his older self and now his current mentality, how he feels better and healthier and doesn't like what he did in the past and didn't like who he used to be. So it's a whole apology video for all of that. He releases more feelings in this video than Pandora's box, and I kind of want to go over this whole situation because I have a lot of thoughts on the topic, not only as it pertains to iDubbbz in particular, but just in the general creator space. There's a few things that I want to talk about here.
For a while, I felt like if I changed my content over time, that people would see that as a reflection of who I am and what I value, but I'm starting to realize that that is a very weak and passive way to, run my channel and live my life.
I'm sorry to immediately come in here with the Phoenix Wright objection, but I completely disagree with the sentiment that it's weak or passive to change your content and expect people to see that as a reflection of yourself. That's pretty much the optimal way of handling any kind of situation in which you're not comfortable with either your audience or the content you've been making. By changing the content over time, you're changing the audience over time as well, obviously, right? The people that subscribed for your previous catalog of content might not stick around for the stuff you start creating when it goes in a different direction, and that's a totally fine thing. I don't think there's anything weak about just making different content and growing individually without having to come forward and share that growth with your audience. At the end of the day, your subscribers aren't your friends. You don't know them and they don't know you. That's the brass tacks of it. Sorry to blast the cold water in your face first thing in the morning. You don't owe them an explanation for why you're changing your content. You're welcome to tell them. I think that's totally within your right to do. But I really disagree that it's weak if you don't explain why you're changing your content. You can just make different stuff and go in that direction where you're happier without ever really needing to come forward and like really lecture on why.
I think I should have the balls to make an apology video and take accountability for the mistakes I've made. So that's what this video is. I am responsible for creating a lot of hurtful and damaging content on this channel. And I've also created a culture of apathy and I don't know, a lot of like cruelty as well. Like, you know, some of the videos I've made have been very not edgy. I don't think they you know, some of these videos were edgy. I think they were just outright cruel.
It sucks to hear that this is how he thinks about his old content and his old self. It's always a very difficult realization when you look back on, you know, the you of a few years ago disappointed. Like, I used to be 5'6", and I still am, but it sucks to realize that I was then too, and have been for a long time. Point is, he wasn't happy with the content he made or the person he was, and now he's trying to apologize for the videos he made. And I, once again, have to completely disagree with the way he looks at it. I feel like his perspective on it is very warped by the way the internet has evolved over the years. The way he talks about this content makes it sound like he used to fucking murder puppies for these videos, which it was never that extreme. I very much would consider it edgy. It was 2016 edginess in all of its glory. That was entirely the brand. And for its time, it lived peacefully. You know, all four nations, water, earth, fire, air, lived together in harmony with all this edginess going on. Now, obviously, times have changed, and he has changed. He's gotten older. He's in his 30s now. In your 30s, it's not exactly entertaining to just be spamming slurs for shock humor. I don't find that entertaining, and he doesn't either. So it's totally fine to want to distance yourself from making content like that. But I don't think it was a mistake that he made those videos. Like, they're not hurtful, nor do I really think they're damaging. Now, you could make an argument that they were hurtful to the people they were about, like the content cop on Tana or Leafy or any of that. You could say, like, you know, he hurt their feelings or sent harassment their way, which may have been a mental burden on them, and you could feel bad about that, I suppose. But at the end of the day, I don't think the goal of his content was ever to be hurtful or damaging. He was just trying to entertain and using edginess as shock humor, which for its time was acceptable online. Now, whether or not you think that's okay that it was ever acceptable, that's a different argument for a different day. But the point is, the point of his content wasn't to be hateful or hurtful. He really was just trying to entertain. At least that's how I and the majority of people viewed it. So I just don't think that the apology is really warranted. You can explain, like, I just don't like making that content anymore, so I won't. And be like, hey, I even regret making that content because it's kind of cringe now. That's all fine, but to think that it is this huge, massive problem, like you made an unforgivable mistake, is a little weird to me.
So I don't want people to, you know, get it confused about, you know, where I stand. I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to acknowledge that, and I'm really sorry that it's taken me this long to acknowledge it. The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons. and obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end.
You shouldn't have to apologize for criticizing someone or something. Voicing your opinion on a subject is a totally natural thing to do. I get criticized, I criticize others, people criticize movies, games, music, all of that. And to try and vilify the idea of criticism being evil, I think is a little dangerous, because then you just create these echo chambers and no one ever really grows from that. I think it's totally fine if you regret the way you criticize things, the way you approach the subjects. If you regret how you handled it, that's okay. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that you were picking apart people for lackluster things. You seem to really look back negatively on all of the content cops, but whether you like it or not, you did make good points and good arguments against people who did deserve criticism. I feel like the main pain point of those videos he used to make is the slurs in them. Like, his catchphrase was 2 slurs strung together, right? Like, that's not exactly something to be super proud of. I get that. But to go back and say, like, all of it's shit, all of it's, bad and cruel, I think is going way overboard, because it's not. I don't think any of it was cruel. I don't think the criticism was unwarranted, but it's fine to just regret the way you handled it to a certain extent without saying all the content was damaging or cruel or bad.
I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than any of these people that I was making content cop videos on, and I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and I make a different set of mistakes than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not.
I feel like there's a chance he may have been hit by a Men in Black neuralizer and had his memories rewritten of what that content actually was, because I never got the impression from those videos that he was morally grandstanding or that he was trying to pitch himself as superior to them morally. He never really tried to make himself seem like he was better than them. In fact, he would multiple times point out, like, his problems as well, and even give them advice on how they could have attacked him better in response, giving them ammo if they wanted to use against him. It all seemed very self-aware, not from like a moral grandstanding perspective, but just you were lending criticism in a goofy way to entertain your audience as well as provide legitimate points for why these people are doing bad things or have done bad things. For example, making a content cop on Leafy and bullying him the same way he'd bully the people in his videos, right? Like, that's not exactly the most cruel thing in the world. It's just making a point and making that point entertaining to your audience.
I am very insecure about my ability to create interesting content or like entertain. It's gotten better over the years, but it's something that I have struggled with constantly. And it's one of the reasons why I, kept making this hurtful content. You do interpret that as an excuse, but I hope that that is relatable to other creators who maybe struggle with the same thing.
Now, this subject right here is something that extends beyond the iDubbbz situation. It's the insecurity, especially with a creator who's found a lot of success with one branch of content, that fearfulness to try other things because you don't know how to be perceived and you're a little worried about your ability to even deliver something that's not the norm that your audience is used to. That's a very honest look into that mentality, and you see it all the time on the platform with people that have found success in one niche and they never leave it. And that's because there's always that fear that if you do, you'll lose your audience or you'll just not be good at it. So most people live in the exact same style of content forever. And that's how I was for like the first 8 or 9 years of this channel, doing nothing but gameplay and commentary videos, spouting the word nipple and titty and cum as much as I possibly could within the first 2 minutes and throughout the rest of the video. But eventually, you do take a risk and you try other things, and I always think that's the most fulfilling thing a creator can do, which is branch out from their niche. At least to try it, dip your toes in the deep end of that pool and give it a whirl.
I was being very bigoted in a lot of my videos, and I justified it because, I didn't think it was too serious. And I thought that people were going to see that I had good intentions, but that's so silly, Casual racism is still racism. Casual bigotry is still bigotry. And, I said a lot of things that I look back at and I cringe now, and I'm like, that is an awful thing to say.
This I completely understand. That is totally normal to look back on that and cringe, right? In your 30s and really any age over 16, you're not exactly going to be getting a hearty ho 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 belly laugh just hearing a bunch of slurs being spammed. Real life isn't Call of Duty lobbies. I don't think many people in the real world are going to be like laughing and fist pumping hearing you just shout slurs as comedy. So that makes sense to look back on that and cringe. However, none of your videos came from a place of hate. At least I don't think so. I don't think you were ever a racist or a bigot or anything like that. You used those words for shock humor. That was the whole goal, the edgy shock humor of using those words. And you made it pretty clear that that was kind of your drive. And he does mention it in this video with the it's either all okay or none of it's okay mentality. But I really think most people were able to recognize that the things he was saying weren't coming from a place of legitimate hate. Now, you can of course still say that it's unacceptable that he was using slurs for shock humor and punchlines in his videos for the jokes. That's a totally fair perspective to have. But it's still, I think, a little ridiculous to make it seem like it was this big of a deal that it warranted a whole apology video in which he makes it seem like he'll never truly find forgiveness and he'll never forgive himself for it, for saying the slurs in the videos and making the content he did. Because again, like, he's talking about it like he's a fucking reformed racist, like he was actually a racist and now he's not, when I don't think that was the case. He was an edgelord, and that's it. I feel like this whole video could have just been summed up very easily like, hey guys, it was fucking 2016. I was edgy, and now I think it's cringy, so I don't want to do that anymore, and we're closing the book. That, you know, we're shutting that chapter down, putting the kibosh on it. Now we're doing some other stuff. And that would have been a totally fine explanation. A lot of people would have still would have been disappointed, of course, in his audience that liked that content. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't feel like a prisoner to your audience. You should make what makes you happiest to create. Like, I don't think you should have felt obligated to make this video. Like, I don't think this situation was so damaging that it warranted this kind of, like, fucking presidential press conference here over it and apologizing for the content you made back then. You know, I don't think, like, you ruined lives because you made Content Cop. I don't think you made an entire generation of racists and bigots because you used slurs for shock humor. I think that's a very bastardized perspective of how people digest content online. Now, I have no doubt that his audience did cultivate some weirdo losers that probably were real racists somewhere in there that didn't really care about his message and just liked that he was saying the N-word. I have no doubt that that existed in his community. But I don't think that was his goal, and there's always going to be weirdo losers. Of course, you can do your best to mitigate those people from feeling welcome in your community, but that all starts with just changing the content over time. Again, that's not a weak thing to do. That is not a weak or passive approach. The vilifying of your own audience and your previous content, I don't think is the right way of even looking at the content you used to make or the audience that you had. Of course, there were bad actors in there, but not everyone was. And to make them feel like they were if they liked your content is a little weird. And I don't think that's the goal of this video by any means, but it does come across that way. Like, you weren't a bad person if you were laughing at his content cops or anything like that. And I don't think he was a bad person for making those content cops in the first place.
I shouldn't be able to just make an apology video and walk away from it. This is something that I should live the rest of my life with, and I expect to. I've profited off of this bigoted content for years, and I've made a successful career out of it, and that's not right. I think that this is only a step in the right direction, and I know that a lot more needs to be done to even approach a life that I would think would be like acceptable.
You don't deserve to be fucking publicly flogged with tomatoes thrown at you for the rest of your life and skinned alive because you made edgy videos in 2016, man. It's just not that big of a deal. It feels horrible hearing this from him, knowing that it weighs so heavily on his mind that he made these videos, so he feels like he's a real piece of shit for doing it. You just made edgy YouTube videos. You didn't ruin anybody's life. You didn't create a fucking army of racists and bigots. The content itself isn't bigoted content either. You used edgy shock humor. And I don't think that makes you a bigot that you're going to have to atone for those sins for the rest of your life over.
I am running ads on this video, and any revenue generated from this video, I'm going to match and donate to an organization that would have been particularly affected by the type of rhetoric that I've been spewing on this channel. And again, this isn't the end of what I'm doing. This is just the start.
You'll get no complaints from me here. I'm always on the side of helping people, so anything charitable, I'm always for. Though I don't think it was necessary or anything, I still think that's a nice gesture regardless. But he uses the word rhetoric here. And that again makes it sound like these videos were coming from like a legitimate racist, which I don't think they were. I really don't. At least I don't want to believe that iDubbbz used to be a racist and he was using that to try and propel his beliefs forward. He really it seems like he was really just using these words as shock humor, which is cringy, sure, very cringy, and that is absolutely fine to point out. But it doesn't strike me as something that was genuinely ruining people's lives hearing that kind of shit. It's just kind of like an eye-rolling thing to look back on now, like, ugh, that's fucking lame. And that's really it. I just don't think it goes too much deeper than that. Like I said, I have no doubt there really were some dangerous weirdos that did hold dangerous beliefs in his community. But I don't think he made them. I think they were there when they found his content to begin with, and they stuck around because they just liked hearing the edgy words spoken out loud. That's it. I don't think he made them. He wasn't the Frankenstein to their monster. Now, I don't want to just keep dissecting every single piece of the video here. I want to kind of branch this out into a broader talking point about when a creator starts to resent the audience and community they've fostered. Because that's fundamentally what's happened here. iDubbbz has grown up now. He doesn't like what he made when he was younger, and he doesn't like the audience that he made along the way, along the journey. He mentions a couple of times in the videos, like some of these eureka moments where he's like, man, this is really fucking frustrating the people that are in my audience. Well, he doesn't blatantly say that, but he tells a couple anecdotes about, going to conventions and meeting fans and it being kind of like this mirror held up to him that he didn't like the reflection of. And that's a very interesting and unfortunately pretty common thing to have happen online, where someone spends a long time building their brand and building their audience. And as they grow, they start to really resent the audience that they have. And usually this comes in one of two forms, where you have someone like Darkside Phil. I've used him as an example before, but he has an audience that he doesn't seem to really like, but he needs them because they pay his bills. So he has to constantly keep doing the same things in order to keep the lights on. And I imagine he feels trapped by his viewers because he has to keep doing this song and dance in order to get the money from them, but doesn't like what he's doing. And it also happens to other creators as well who spend a long time building their identity online, but they don't like what they're doing and they don't like the people that are watching them. So then they try and make some kind of change and then get eaten alive by their community, which only further reinforces their disdain for them, which leads to a really toxic community where everyone's at each other's throats. There's countless examples of that. Point is, that experience online is all too common. And when it does happen, a creator's left with a choice. They either just suck it up and keep making the shit that they clap for, even though it doesn't make them happy and they don't like the audience that's clapping for them, or they try and change the content and grow a different kind of audience, which is always the scarier option. That's always the more uncertain one, because maybe no one likes it, and now you've lost that audience you've built up, and now your career is in jeopardy. You might not be able to keep the lights on by doing this career anymore, because now you've alienated them, gone in a different direction, and it hasn't worked out. So the majority of creators in this position just kind of suck it up, rub some dirt in it, and just keep doing the same shit over and over, even if it makes them miserable. And that's why you'll see a lot of creators burn out. So I'll always respect the creators that choose the harder path here of pivoting and changing their content, doing what makes them happier, even if it means taking that huge risk of losing the audience you've built up over time. Even though I disagree with iDubbbz's perspective on his older content being damaging or dangerous, or indoctrinating, I still do respect that he didn't like what he was doing, so now he's doing something that he likes more. Even though it is coming at the risk of losing his audience, he'll find happiness in the content that he makes going forward, and maybe he's happier with the new audience that he potentially cultivates through all of it. So, but anyway, just kind of wanted to talk about this whole situation. That's about it. So yeah. There are some questions we may never know the answer to. What happens when we die? What came before the Big Bang? Why am I so short? Why did Dr. Disrespect get banned from Twitch at the height of his popularity in 2020? Dr. Disrespect was the face of Twitch, one of the largest streamers on the platform and one of the largest streamers just in general in the world. And out of nowhere, in 2020, he received a permanent ban, with no elaboration from Twitch's side, nor his. Though he has been somewhat vocal about suing Twitch as a result of getting banned, but he's never explained what the ban was for in the first place. So it's always just been this mystery that's plagued the minds of scholars for the last 4 years. A mystery on par with Area 51. And now, last night, there was a new development in this situation. Now, I want to be very clear, these are still allegations here, but a former Twitch employee on a random Friday night just came out and dropped a fucking bombshell claiming that Dr. Disrespect got banned because he was caught sexting a minor using the Twitch Whisper system and trying to meet up with them at TwitchCon. An extremely surprising statement that jump-scared the entire streaming community. Like, first of all, I didn't even know people used the Twitch Whisper system. That, in and of itself, was a shock. Twitch Whispers is more archaic than AIM and more useless than flavored toilet paper. It hardly functions. It's a joke of a messaging service. But anyway, these are obviously massive allegations against Dr. Disrespect. Now, they didn't provide any evidence or proof of the claims. However, a lot of other parties, like journalists, came forward saying that they had heard similar things from Twitch employees, like their trusted sources had told them similar stories about the reason behind Dr. Disrespect's ban. But again, no evidence has been provided publicly for all of this. Right now, it's just a lot of people saying, like, this is what we heard too. Dr. Disrespect did reply to a tweet talking about it a little bit, saying, "Jake, seriously, I get it. It's a hot topic, but this has been settled. No wrongdoing was acknowledged, and they paid out the whole contract." The vast majority of people were pretty unsatisfied with that response from the doc because it's a bunch of hooey, like mumbo-jumbo legal lawyer speak that doesn't actually say anything. Like, instead of saying he didn't do what the claims are, like he didn't sext a minor, he said no wrongdoing was acknowledged, not that no wrongdoing happened. And then mentions that Twitch paid out the whole contract, which I think the reason he threw that in there is to try and illustrate that Twitch ended up settling with him and paid out his whole contract, which must mean that he was in the right legally, I think is what he's getting at, but it's so obtuse and still doesn't shut down the claim that has been made against him. So most people were left scratching their head wondering, well, is it true or not? So about an hour ago, he did make a follow-up tweet here saying, "Listen, I'm obviously tied to legal obligations from the settlement with Twitch, but I just need to say what I can since this is the fucking internet. I didn't do anything wrong. All this has been probed and settled, nothing illegal, no wrongdoing was found, and I was paid. Elden Ring Monday." He definitely provides a little more clarity with this statement. However, I have to wonder what legal obligations have got him like fucking strangled like Homer Simpson around Bart Simpson's neck that are preventing him from just saying he didn't sext a minor if he didn't. He's still kind of talking around it, saying it's been probed and settled, nothing illegal, no wrongdoing was found, he was paid. Instead of just like outright coming out with a fucking iron fist saying, this is baloney, this is a load of horseradish, absolute fish paste, that's not true. Whatever this legal settlement with Twitch was in the Thunderdome here, it's prevented him from being able to talk directly about this claim, it seems, which is so fucking odd. Now, I think it's important I mention just how uncommon it is for Twitch to permanently ban a streamer of any size. Period. That's more rare than a total solar eclipse. It just doesn't happen often at all. There was a streamer who went live and she goatsied herself directly at the camera on Twitch, only got a 72-hour ban. A year or two ago, there was a streamer who had full-blown sex on stream and she only got a 72-hour ban. There's so many streamers that also have like 10 or even 12 bans to their name, and still get to stream on Twitch without issue. So a permaban doesn't happen often, and it certainly doesn't happen often to the biggest streamer on their platform, and Dr. Disrespect was under a big contract with Twitch at the time of his ban. So for them to permanently ban him at the height of his popularity while he was the face of their platform with a big contract from them, it had to be something big. And the theory I subscribe to, and the most commonly accepted theory for why he was banned, was that it must have been some kind of big contract dispute. This time period was a wacky one, quite quirky for sure. It's when Mixer was still around, God rest its soul. It went out with a sad, pathetic whimper, a little wet fart into the wind, but at the time, it was a juggernaut, and it was scaring Twitch. It had recently bought Ninja off of Twitch to Mixer. It bought Shroud. And there was a little bit of a panic from Twitch, who then started issuing massive contracts to streamers on their platform to keep them there and away from Mixer. So the idea was that maybe Dr. Disrespect was talking with Mixer about a huge contract buyout, and it pissed Twitch off, so they banned him and wiped their ass with that contract, which led to Dr. Disrespect suing them for it, but Twitch in the settlement made sure that he kept his mouth shut about it. That was the main theory most people believed, again, myself included, and now this has come out. And again, there's no evidence to support the claims, but with a handful of other people coming forward saying they heard a similar reason behind his ban, it's got a lot of people believing that it must be accurate. Now, if it is true, it does also make Twitch look pretty bad here, in my opinion, because this is a situation that deals with child safety on their platform, and if the face of their platform was sexting a minor through their Whispers service, I think Twitch has a responsibility to explain what they're going to do going forward to ensure that kind of shit doesn't happen again. Though I guess there could again be some real fucky nonsense in the legal proceedings that followed. I have no clue, really. But in the event that it is true, it still makes it seem like Twitch was covering up for the face of their platform being a predator. And that's not a good look for Twitch. So I guess it's also possible that Twitch wanted to bury this as well, to not take some kind of reputational hit in the public eye. Especially, I guess, during 2020 when Mixer was around. So I guess that's possible. I do, however, think now that this allegation has come out, whether it's true or false, I think this is going to be the start of the information around the ban coming forward, either from Twitch or Dr. Disrespect here, because this is such a massive allegation. So someone's going to come forward to set the record straight one way or the other is what I think will probably happen here, but I could be totally wrong. It could be another 4 fucking years before there's even a peep about the Dr. Disrespect Twitch ban mystery. But something I've seen a lot of other people talking about is they're surprised that Twitch was reading Whispers in the first place. I don't think anyone should be caught off guard by that. In the current day and age, everything you send through any service can easily be accessed by that service and is most likely being accessed by that service. All of your data is constantly being harvested and sold. I thought everyone knew that by this point. So in this case, Twitch having access to the Whispers and reading them and then taking action from them isn't like an unheard of concept at all. It's just a matter of not that's the reality of what happened, if this is a true claim or not. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to go over where everything's at right now. It's kind of just a complete mess, so I guess we'll see as the story develops. That's really about it. So yeah. There's a crazy clip from Pokimane's stream going viral right now that I really want to talk about, but it also made me want to speak on a story I've never told about an experience I've had that's somewhat similar to the one she describes here, at least in terms of creepiness. And, well, now I finally have a reason to get that baby off my chest here, so that's gonna be cathartic. Let's dive in.
Many, many years ago, when I was like super omega active on YouTube and I was working with a lot of different editors, there was one editor in particular that I would work with a lot because his edits were really, really good. But he had one major problem, which was that sometimes out of nowhere, his videos would just be like a week or 2 late. Months go by and he messages me out of the blue and he says, "Hey, do you have time to talk? I'm ready to finally tell you why I've been struggling so much with deadlines.
In the history of the human race, I don't think there has ever been a good ending to the sentence, "Hey, do you have a minute to talk?" That always precedes the most vile shit you'll ever hear in your life. I can't even imagine a situation where you'd hear that sentence and think anything other than the most negative thing you'll ever hear is about to happen. Like, imagine you're in heaven and the Lord pulls you aside right in front of the pearly gates and he says, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" Well, you immediately assume you're just going to hell. Like, there's just no world where that sentence ever precedes good news.
Tell me why he proceeds to tell me that the reason why he would sometimes turn around videos a week or two late is because he couldn't stop touching himself. I was trying to pick which word to use. To me, his, in a way, employer of many, many months.
Stop for a second and really let that stew in your noodle. Let it marinate for a bit. How Coomer-brained must you be not only to do this degenerate act of just fucking beating your meat to a streamer's gameplay footage that you're editing, but then tell her that the reason you're late on some of the edits is because you can't stop squeezing your hog to the footage that she sends you. There are so many layers to this onion here. Let's just start by picking apart the most obvious. Why? Now, I know in the most severe cases of porn addicts, they'll sometimes try and communicate directly to the porn star by, like, leaving comments or sending messages or whatever, and that's always the saddest shit you'll ever see. That'll bring a tear to even the strongest man's eyes. Occasionally you'll see those moments where dudes try and directly communicate to the porn star, leaving comments on their posts saying things like, "Can't wait to watch this one when I'm off work," or "When my wife goes to bed, that's when the bad boy will play. Thanks for providing me with tonight's entertainment," whatever. Like, just leaving these desperate posts, you know, cock in hand, giving a salute, like, "Thank you, madame, for your service. This will be a legendary gooning sesh." But even in those cases, they're communicating with someone they don't know. This guy was her editor for many months. And he was not only jerking off to the content he was being sent, which was just gameplay videos, I imagine, or like just chatting stream moments, nothing even sexual, and he was still choking the chicken to it, fucking playing the skin flute, and then had the gall to tell her that he was doing that is just incomprehensibly unhinged. She was his boss. She was employing him. So he basically went right through HR, bypassed that protocol, went straight to the top of the food chain, kicked in the door, and said, "Listen, boss, I'm fucking obliterating my wiener, and what are you gonna do about it? That's why I've been late on my deadlines." Like, I don't think he came in with that energy. I bet he was, like, super shy about it. He was probably like, "Oh, Pokimane, so I know I've been kind of late recently, but it's only because I was, how do you say, jerking off to your work."
When I tell you I've never halted a conversation so fast, because I'm like, you are the person that I send, like, hours of footage to. I don't want to know what you're jacking it to. I don't want to know more. I shouldn't even know how much I know right now. I shouldn't know.
I'd actually argue that it's better she did know this, no matter how awful it is, but that way she can get the fuck away from this weirdo ASAP. Just say, "Take a hike, Buster. This is fucking terrible."
But I felt so bad. So when he's like, you know, like, this is like an addiction of mine, I genuinely felt really, really bad. So I still paid him for months. What the hell do I do? Fire him? Am I even allowed to fire someone because they're...
That's definitely towards the top of the list for the best reasons to fire someone. That actually might be reason number one why you could go ahead and can somebody. Because they can't stop fucking beating their cock to you, their employer. And they're also not doing their job well by being 1 to 2 weeks late, which, by the way, is a long time of just fucking gooning here. This degenerate would miss his deadlines by a week or even up to 2 weeks because he was obsessively polishing his scepter to his employer. You 100% can and should fire someone like this. It's not like the Better Business Bureau is going to defend him. You're not going to have agents show up at your door knocking and be like, "Hey, listen, We know what happened here. You discriminated against this kind, gentle sir. You fired him just because he was obsessively masturbating to you. Well, I'll have you know this is a free country, ma'am. This is a civilized society. You can't fire someone for that. There's no crime. What is the charge? Busting a nut? An immaculate, gooey nut? This is democracy manifest. Like that just wouldn't happen. But I actually understand why she was hesitant to do that. And this is where I'm going to get into a story I don't think I've ever told. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Where I had something somewhat similar happen a long time ago. Not to this level, but something closely related. So a while back, I used to just accept any voice acting role I was offered by any human being with a pulse on the planet. If they said they needed voice lines done, I would do them for free just because I really enjoyed doing it. It's actually how I met Jackson, and if you have ever watched the official podcast, you'll know that our X-Men origin story between Jackson and I's friendship is that Jackson actually scammed me through this process. He sent me an email asking if I'd be down to do voice work for his upcoming game, and then sent me like some in-game screenshots and promotional screenshots that were actually just Dark Souls images that he photoshopped to fit his game style that he tried to sell me on. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm definitely down to do voice work. And it turns out he never had that game, he just wanted to play games together, and we did, and ended up becoming extremely close friends, and now we make God Slap together. Like, he's been a friend of mine for almost a decade now. And it came from that. But there's definitely a dark side to that. The Sith Lords definitely did exploit that very stupid thing I used to do, just accepting any voice acting roles ever from anybody. So, I think this was after I had met Jackson and after we were friends. I can't quite remember the exact chronological timeline here, but I received a very interesting email from a very peculiar man that under any other circumstances probably would have triggered red flags in a sensible person's mind, but for me, I saw the word like voice acting opportunity and I was like, I'm in. Say no more. So I emailed him back saying that I was absolutely down to do this and when should we get to work on it. So we communicated back and forth a little bit and eventually set up a Skype call. Because this is when Skype was still popular. I think one of the best things that's happened in modern day is that Skype has died. That was legitimately just like fucking official malware. That was the worst program that ever saw success, and I am embarrassed that it ever got as popular as it did. But this was a different time and day back then. So we went in Skype and we had our first voice call a couple days after that initial email came through. And it wasn't like super weird. He conducted himself pretty professionally. He was trying to tell me about the game. I don't remember all the details around it. It was a game that never was going to happen, though. It was unbelievably ambitious. It was some kind of like MMO hack and slash with like a super deep branching plot lines, all made by him, the solo dev. He was just spamming every buzzword he could about this game, but again, it didn't matter to me because it was voice acting work, and I wanted to get the reps in. And so I just said, yeah, like, I'm super on board. Let's stay in contact. You can send me the script and whatever else you need. And that was kind of the end of our, like, introductory call. And man, did I open Pandora's box. Pretty much immediately after that call, he would start messaging me on Skype often. And it wasn't about the project all the time. Sometimes it was just about his day, which I would engage with. I'd be like, oh, it's really interesting to hear about how your day's been going. Thanks so much for sharing. And then he'd start tiptoeing into like some other small talk. It started to feel like he was interrogating me sometimes, where he'd be like, so what'd you do today? And I'd tell him, be like, oh, so like, you didn't really respond earlier. I thought you were just doing something really important, but you were just hanging out at home? That's kind of weird. Like, what, are you sure that's all you're doing? I was like, brother, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm just not like always on Skype. He's like, oh, no, that's fine, you just didn't respond to me. And then he'd start gradually asking more and more questions, like questions you would ask someone on like the most awkward first date imaginable if you were some kind of Reddit mod. He'd be like asking me certain things like about anime and just like general interests and shit. And this is right before I had graduated college. I was still in college because I remember he was asking me about how my schooling was going. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's going well. how's your project going? And he'd tell me some shit that I know wasn't happening. He's like, oh yeah, I got a lot of work done today on the game. I was in C# really just fucking in my flow state. I took like the limitless pill, and man, I programmed fucking 15 trees, and I have 17 actors doing mocap for me, and they're all martial arts specialists, so the hack and slash animations are top notch. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Do you have like that script or anything ready? He's like, oh, it's still being worked on. And then he just keep kicking that can down the road and change the topic of like, but enough about the game. Tell me about exercise physiology. What's that like? And it's like, brother, you're not my mom. Like, why are you checking in like this? I don't care. And we're not really like close or anything. So why would you get upset if I don't like respond to you in a timely enough fashion? Like, it was just a disaster. So this went on for like a few weeks of this kind of stuff happening every couple of days, and I was ready to just wash my hands of it and just say, all right, this voice work isn't worth, I'm not getting the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as they say. So I kind of just started to let that peter out. I'd really very rarely respond to him, so he'd send me like a few messages over the course of like a week or two that I just would ignore. And then it got really bad. This guy was sending me like deep messages, and some of them just very unsettling. And then he eventually sent me a message talking about how he's about to end it all. And, he doesn't expect me to respond since I haven't responded in so long, but he just wanted me to know how much our friendship meant to him and all that. And I fucking freaked out, immediately responded to that when I saw it. And then he once again just switched gears and was like talking about my day and his day and this and that, and once again just going down this small talk and then like interrogating me like, well, why haven't you been responding? So that I had to come up with a story like, oh, just haven't been checking Skype for the last few weeks, just stuff going on. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, okay, yeah, I'm sure, and then getting upset and whatever. I recommended him getting like professional help, which he claimed he was doing and seeking, but it wasn't really working. The only thing that really helped him was our little chit-chats back and forth. So obviously I kept that door open, and luckily the frequency of his messages was much slower, so over the course of a few months now, the messages were far less often. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it still just felt miserable to keep this communication open. It felt like a hostage situation where like if I didn't respond, he might do something, and it was scary. And as this continued for quite some time, he'd make threats occasionally of harming himself if I didn't respond in like a fucking speedrun fashion to one of his messages. When I got into a relationship, he sent a really creepy message about like, well, is it serious? Why is it serious? What do you see in her? That kind of thing. Like, it was all really alarming shit. And I'm not going to keep boring you with details here, but similar to how Pokimane didn't immediately fire that guy because she like felt bad for him or was like a little afraid of what might happen or whatever, it's easy to take a step back when you're not involved in it and just be like, oh, this is what you should have done. But when you're actually in one of these like really weird fucking situations on like a personal level here, it's just a little harder to do that. So I do understand that, but again, definitely the right course was firing that guy. In my situation, eventually what I did was I just stopped responding. If he did send me one of those messages, I would reply just telling him he needs professional help, and I won't talk further about these kind of things with him because I am not a professional. I'm not equipped to deal with that or handle that or help him in any way. He needs real help. And that would be how I'd respond to those messages when he sent them, and he eventually stopped. But that went on for a long time. But yeah, anyway, just kind of wanted to talk about all this. That's about it. See ya. Yeah, I know, I'm the millionth person talking about this situation, but how can I help myself? I'm an addict, and my drug of choice is silliness. Goofy stories are the spaghetti, and I'm the meatball. I can't resist. So, many of you have probably already seen, the biggest YouTube live streamer, iShowSpeed, just had a bit of a whoops-a-daisy moment on stream. He was playing Five Nights at Freddy's and Chica jump-scared him, and his penis fell out of his shorts. Now you might be asking yourself, how is this possible? What kind of paranormal activity took place here? Did Chica crawl out of the screen and pull his dick out for him on camera? Like, how did this go wrong? What a weird response to fear, to expose yourself after you get frightened. I know Five Nights at Freddy's fandom can get a little wild, but I mean, this is next level. So what exactly happened? Well, iShowSpeed was playing a Five Nights at Freddy's game, and Chica gave him a spook, said, "Boo!" And in response to the jump scare, Speed stood up saying that he wanted to fuck Chica and he was thrusting at the camera. One thing led to another and then bang, penis. So, as you can imagine, this was a pretty embarrassing moment that, of course, blew up online. More like iShowMeet, am I right? This situation could lead to an extended vacation from YouTube streaming because nudity is against their rules, but there's a chance that they don't enforce it super strict here since it was an accident. They have been somewhat loosey-goosey on these rules in the past. Like, even just a month ago, there was a channel that blew up thanks to a viral video they made of a guy naring his butthole. Just full asshole on display, no censorship, nothing like that. It's just his brown balloon knot getting nared. And it was totally fine, still on the platform. And that's thanks to their educational content override policy where you can have things like a chocolate starfish getting de-haired without censorship, and it's okay because there's educational context around it. Though in this case, with the iShowSpeed cock situation, I don't exactly know what argument you'd make for it being educational unless it's like this is educational because it demonstrates how not to react to a jump scare, I guess. I don't know. But since it's accidental, they might have some flexibility on not like banning him for it outright. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens with it, but I don't think this is going to end up with like the termination of his account or anything. But he may get some kind of community guideline strike which would prevent him from streaming for a certain period of time. And to think this whole situation could have been avoided if he just wore underwear. This isn't a segue into an ad or anything like that. I was just thinking to myself, when was the last time I wore pants without underwear? And it's been so long. I'm 29 years old now, so I've started to get those old man nuts that hang real low and just bounce around chaotically. So if they're not supported by underpants, those bastards will just be swinging around like they're playing a game of tetherball with each other. My testicles will just be going hog wild down there, and it doesn't feel great. So I couldn't even imagine myself like jumping around and being active without undergarments on. I would injure myself very quickly. Now, of course, when it comes to on-stream wiener moments, the great dark side Phil always comes up because DSP has one of the most iconic stream clips of all time where he didn't realize he was live and then started masturbating. But you couldn't see any shaft or anything. The schlong was still left to the imagination. He did finish. He tilts his head back in ecstasy as he finishes, but you never saw anything. In this case, he actually does just have his entire cock out on screen for a moment. He flashed the entire screen. So it's definitely more extreme than the Dark Side Phil event. And the whole thing has obviously led to a lot of discussion around like what's going to happen next, because clearly this is a violation of rules, but it also appears like it was an accident. So how harsh is the punishment going to be? And I guess we're just going to have to wait and see there. It does seem accidental. I think he wanted to have like an over-the-top overreaction to jump scares that a lot of streamers and YouTubers do, and he just went too far with it, leading to just this disastrous wardrobe malfunction moment. Now, a lot of people have also started saying that, maybe this was a calculated plan and he's about to announce his signing with Kick now that he can't stream on YouTube, assuming he does get a strike for this. And I have to say, that's a pretty interesting theory, because I don't think this was a premeditated scheme. He didn't pull his cock out and start dangling it in front of the webcam like he was giving a puppet show or anything like that. It does seem like it was unintentional, the result of overreacting to a jump scare. I don't see this as like a, maybe a grand departure from YouTube streaming where he's like, you know what, it's time I ride off into the sunset. I'm kind of tired of streaming. I'm going to retire the jersey number here. We're done. But I want to go out with a triumphant bang, an exit no one will see coming. Like, I don't think he came in here to try and subvert viewers' expectations like it was Game of Thrones Season 8 here with a fucking penis jump scare. Like, I don't think this was a plan. If it was, this could lead to, like, huge trouble for him, actually, I would imagine. He knows his audience skews on the much younger side of things. A lot of the iShowSpeed audience is young, and a lot of those kids were probably watching this stream, especially considering it's Five Nights at Freddy's, which is predominantly a kid's property that they really resonate with. So I don't think the idea would have crossed his mind like, good content would be exposing myself in front of all of these viewers, many of which are minors. Like, I highly doubt that was a thought that crossed his mind. Now, of course, the fact that it still happened is awful, but I just really don't think it was a plan. Of course, the overreaction to the jump scare is a plan. Like, that was definitely something he decided he was going to do with, like, going crazy about the jump scare. But everything that happened after that, I don't think was some kind of calculated plot. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. That's really about it. So yeah. This is one of those heavy situations I don't usually like to talk about. I usually aim for the goofier stories where we just kind of point and laugh at some clownery and some general dog shittery that's going on around the internet. But the situation that's happening with Amouranth is an extremely serious one, and it is one that I'd like to talk about since I've seen some of the worst takes all of humanity's ever concocted surrounding this. Now, for those that don't know, if you haven't been on Twitter today, a lot of clips have been surfacing from Amouranth's stream from last night where she went live. Well, she was already live, but she unmuted during an argument with her husband over the phone. And this troglodyte sounds like an absolutely unhinged maniac. I watched the entire VOD to get the full context surrounding this entire situation, and I can say with a high level of confidence that this is an actual abusive lunatic. Now, before getting into the clips, I want to make it known that I'm basing that on more than just the phone call argument. Obviously, anyone with ears is going to reach the same conclusion because it comes across extremely abusive in the phone calls as well. But she goes further, showing some of the damage he's done to the house in fits of rage. For instance, she said she locked herself in her room one time, and in response, he kicked the door in and shows the damage to the door, how it's all fucked up, it's now missing like the hinge and everything, and then shows damage to a nearby wall, and then also shows text messages that she received from him, threatening to financially ruin them because she wasn't replying to him fast enough. Now, last quick note before getting into the clips, I'm not Amouranth's PR manager. I'm not here to change your mind if you don't like her or her content, but you need to accept that just because you don't like someone's content, that doesn't mean that they're deserving of treatment like this. Abuse isn't okay in any circumstance. Just because you might not be a fan of her doesn't mean that you can like wiggle your finger and celebrate that she's miserable or something. That's so fucked up. I've already seen a ton of disgusting worms blaming her for all of this and being happy that she's being abused because they're not a fan of her streams or the fact she has an OnlyFans. It's absolutely fucking despicable shit.
Exactly. Because I'm gonna let you say what you think you heard. But then I'm gonna say what I thought I said. But you cannot interrupt mine because I'm not gonna interrupt you.
What are you saying? Why did you say you were gonna kill my dogs?
Leave the house.
Okay, I can leave the. You know what? Actually, I shouldn't leave the house because my dogs are here.
We'll take the dogs and leave.
The man's voice you're hearing on the phone that sounds like a 9-year-old getting his balls squeezed at the doctor during a physical with that helium-high, screaming, screeching voice, that's her husband. And he's melting down over an argument they had earlier. And I'm going to tell you what it's about, but you're not going to believe me. I watched the whole VOD and I can confirm, based on everything I've seen here, this argument was because she didn't hear something he said. That simple. So he had asked her a question, she didn't hear it, and said, I didn't know you asked a question, basically. She said that, oh, you didn't ask me that question, but he believed he did. So her saying, you didn't ask me that, he took as a personal insult, and it led to this massive blow-up. That's what started this whole thing. Because she didn't fully hear the question, so didn't know what was asked. And in response to that, in order to prove a point, he threatened to kill her dogs. Totally reasonable thing from a rational person. I'll go ahead and play his side of that statement.
Why are you pausing? You didn't ask a question. You said a statement. Did you say that? No?
I tried to tell you
what I heard.
heard.
Did not say that? Are you saying you did not say that?
I tried to tell you what I heard from you. And then you called me a liar.
Then you tell me, what did you say? No, I did. I said it on purpose. I said it to show you how easily distracted you are. There was no condition. You're lying. What? You're literally lying to me. I said this. Stop. I said, you're going to tell me what you said? And if you lie or interrupt
So Big Bang Theory over here hatched the genius idea, a galaxy brain scheme, to prove that she wasn't hearing everything he said. He then threatened her dog's life. His whole chess master checkmating move here was, I'm going to threaten your dogs because I know you're going to focus on that as opposed to the other stuff I've said. You know, the same response everyone would have, right? Oh, you're not listening to me? I'm going to go kill your dogs. Oh, well, you heard that? Weird. You know, like, how dumb can you be? This man is just an actual psychopath. Obviously, she's going to focus on the thing where you're threatening her dog's life out of nowhere. He was upset because she didn't hear the question and then instead said you didn't ask it. If he ever even asked it in the first place, you know, there's no telling for sure. I wasn't fucking there. I wasn't a fly on the wall. But he's mad because she didn't hear the question. And then in order to prove his point that she just didn't hear the question, he threatens her dog's life to show her that she focuses on emotionally distressing things more than his other statements. That's, you fucking dummy, everyone's gonna be focusing on emotionally distressing things when it's a goddamn threat.
And I said that because I knew when I say that, instantly you don't remember, you forget what you said and what I said. Both.
Why do you have to say you're gonna kill my dog? What does that help anything?
Because, stop. Zoom out. Because you weren't understanding my point.
What? What are you even talking about? You brought up the dogs out of nowhere.
Exactly.
So what point is there improving?
See? You're proving my point right now.
What? I'm asking you to... I don't even understand what you're saying to me.
I know. That's my point.
This man really thinks he's smart. You can tell just by the way he carries himself in this conversation. He really thinks he's some intellectually enlightened being who just found atheism for the first time on Reddit or something. Like, this guy talks like the most pretentious douchebag you'll ever hear. As if his point is the only ever accurate one, and he's so benevolent, he even talks about how he's forgiven her for not hearing him sometimes. Like, what a saint. But I want to quickly address something a lot of people keep bringing up. The sub 5 IQ take of, well, she shouldn't have aired this publicly. All right, Dr. Phil, Jesus Christ, let's tackle that for a moment. Let's go over the reasons why she might want to air this publicly. This man has access to all of her accounts. He has all of her passwords, and in this conversation even threatens to make fake tweets to ruin her career, and even goes as far as to typing them up, but doesn't hit send. She is basically his prisoner, because she has tried to go to authorities, at least based on everything I've seen in this VOD, and she has recorded other conversations, but in response, she had her shit broken by him and had her phones taken away by him.
Literally got physical with me. And then, like, fucking tried to take my phones away because he was gonna destroy my PC when I recorded it. Now he's just trying to say bullshit because he knows he fucked up. He just admitted he was lying. Fucking asshole.
So she tried gathering evidence on her own. It was destroyed. She tried calling the police. Apparently that didn't go super well either because he took her phones away. Like, what the fuck else is she supposed to do? I think this was a very good course of action here, and publicly airs it all out so that way this can help her in her case in getting away from him. Now, he didn't know this was being streamed, obviously. He was under the impression she had stepped away to take the phone call, but she came back after, I'm guessing, the threats against her dogs, and just unmuted and did it publicly. And I do think it was a good, I think it was a good decision.
I have the tweet drafted. I'm just gonna send it now.
What are you sending?
The false fucking swatting of your husband, and then having your fucking assistant do it too.
You literally tried to take my phone. I got scared because you got physical, and I called.
Yeah, but I'm tweeting it now, so.
So you're lying on my Twitter. That's gonna look real good.
Sure, whatever. I don't care. I'm tweeting it.
You're...
I'm Amouranth's assistant, or I'm Amouranth's husband, and she is swatting me and calling the cops and calling it a false abuse claim.
I didn't say you abused me. I called the cops because you literally were on top of me trying to take my phones from me. You're literally just lying on my Twitter.
Yeah, I don't care. I built the Twitter.
Yeah, you used my body to build this empire.
And I'm gonna get your OnlyFans banned too.
So here he is admitting that he was just going to lie about a story to ruin her career and then get her OnlyFans banned as well. So you can clearly see that he had access to all of her shit. And a lot was revealed here. The reason why Amouranth wasn't more public about her marriage is because he didn't let her.
I've been wanting to tell people that, like, let's just stream together. Just tell them that we're fucking married. Because it's like, our relationship would be better if we just stream them. And it's fighting all the time. But no, mister, don't say that because it's going to ruin the business model. It's not time yet. Fuck yourself. I'm done with it.
The reason why she started doing hot tub streams and committing the hot tub streams is because he forced her to. So a lot of this shit came out about how awful of a person this guy is and how controlling and how scummy and shitty he is.
It's literally, I was waiting for a response. You were just calling me crazy then.
I didn't say you were crazy.
No. Dude, I'm gonna give you one last chance. I'm gonna irrevocably fucking destroy everything. I can tell you something that shatters you forever, and I'll start tweeting about it too.
But what? Why would you want to do that? I don't understand.
Because you are literally telling me I did not say something that I literally said.
That should be okay to let me.
You're just right here. I'm gonna tell you right now, dude. You're about to lose your entire fucking life in terms of everything that's been built because you're too obstinate to just merely accept that you didn't hear a thing. But I'm already very forgiving about that.
This man is so insecure, sensitive, and embarrassing that he just keeps believing that because she said you didn't say that, he is taking it as an insult against his intelligence and he won't stand for it. He believes that she is calling him crazy. And she might not be calling him crazy, but I, as well as everyone else who has seen these clips, is. This man is fucking unhinged. He is crazy. This man is nuts. And he's downright dangerous, I would say. To be threatening the lives of his dogs, also makes threats against our horses about how he's going to sell them to meat packaging plants or some shit. Like, the man is not a safe person to be around. Now, one other thing I'd like to get into before showing some more clips is the brain-rotted take that keeps floating around about how this is all manufactured drama and it's fake for the sake of exposure and clout for Amouranth. And I understand why people like to take everything with a grain of salt. I think it's a very good thing to always really try and hyper-analyze everything to make sure that what you're getting is legitimate, which is why I'm so surprised that after doing that, people still arrived at the conclusion that it's fake. You'd have to be clinically stupid to think that this is fake. Because in order to reach that conclusion, you'd have to ask yourself, why is it fake? What would be the goal? What would Amouranth gain from this? And let's break that thought process down. Why would she fake it? She's already reached like the pinnacle of internet success. She makes over $2 million a month from streaming and OnlyFans. Like that doesn't even count like merch or anything. So she's making plenty of money, so she doesn't need money, so that wouldn't be a reason. She doesn't need exposure because she's one of the most popular streamers on Twitch and most popular OnlyFans models. So that probably wouldn't make any sense. So why would it be fake? There's nothing to gain. There's only things to lose because now it's public that she's married. So that would be a detriment. Even though it's something she wanted to share, there are those delusional weirdos who believe that by donating money to her, they'd get to date her. Like, that's obvious. So this coming out doesn't help her in any way. There'd be no reason why she'd fake this for anything because she has nothing to gain from it. It's just a nonsensical take from people that clearly haven't thought about it for even an iota of a second.
Man, we're in the house now. It's like the next time when I say plan, do it. Dumb fuck, do you understand? Like, what Plan talking about? It's like, fuck this, I'm calling you. So I disappeared from stream. Take a call. So I can't, tell them I can't talk right now. We're getting Wi-Fi. I don't care. You get the call now. Last chance. About to dump your luggage. You know, from my hotel room. But throwing your stupid merch off the balcony. Proceeding to ditch your stuff. You don't need the makeup or the live view, like the stream epic. Or the clothes, huh? Deleting social media in 1 minute. Buying options that expire and blasting the cash. About to shut down your bank account too. Lag is terrible. Stream is garbage. It's like, about to delete Twitter in 30 seconds. If you don't call me, my phone's literally off, right? I'm just like, it literally died. Gonna donate $250,000 to Polo Missy. It's like a bird sanctuary he likes. In the next 2 minutes, $250K gone. We'll donate.
Pretty alarming stuff here. Just look at these texts. The man is draining their finances faster than a crypto bro investing in the latest shitcoin. Just blasting all their money down the drain. Just fucking shitting it away. because she wasn't replying to him in a reasonable time. It should be obvious that this isn't healthy behavior from a sane individual. But if you need more evidence of that, let's go later into her stream where she starts showing some of the house itself and some of the damage that he's caused.
Script of HelloUTH. You know what you are.
I would lock my door, but he broke that too. So,
Best advice I can give
that was
during
the
my
day
divorce
that
my
he
grandma
fucking
gave.
took
This
the
too
phone
shall
from
pass.
Me, both phones from me. And so I ran in here to call the cops, and he literally kicked the door in and broke, like, this doesn't even have a hinge anymore.
What an absolute nightmare. And you want to know what's really sick about the whole thing? There are people saying that she absolutely deserves it because she does OnlyFans. Can you believe how fucked up that is? And also, a lot of the things people shit on Amouranth for, like pretending to be single to get money from simps or whatever, isn't even her idea, apparently. It's her husband, who is controlling every aspect of her life, it seems. He has access to all of her accounts. He's the one who comes up with her schedule and tells her what to do on stream and all of that. So a lot of the things that she gets shit on is actually her husband doing it, making her do it. And yet Amouranth is the one that has to roll with all the punches. And then once she turns off stream after being insulted all day by a ton of people, she then has her husband insulting her and yelling and screaming at her. Fucking unbelievable. The set of circumstances here are so incredibly sad. Like, just genuinely awful. And the stream ends in a really concerning way. I'll go ahead and play the ending of the stream to you.
Hello? Hey. I haven't gotten any calls. What are you talking about? Why would you ask if I'm taking
This is a scene right out of a horror movie. The doors slowly opening up behind her, someone off camera asking if she's taken her medication. I believe it's her assistant. But even Amouranth is confused, like, why are you asking about the medication? You know, like, that's irrelevant to everything. So the assistant knew what was going on here, and for some reason asked about her taking medication, I guess implying that, you know, maybe she's having, like, some kind of mental breakdown. But that's a fucked up thing to even insinuate, because she's not having just some, like, mental breakdown. Her husband is yelling and screaming at her over an extremely minor issue and threatening to ruin her entire career over it. And making threats against her dogs and her horses. Like, this isn't just some mental breakdown kind of thing where she, you know, she's off her meds, so now she's crazy. Like, her husband has made a massive fucking threat, not only to her career, but the things she cares about. It's a very serious thing that most people would respond to in the same way. She's just doing it live, probably because she felt like she was out of other options. So I think it's a really weird thing for her assistant to ask. And the door opening behind her, I think, is eerie. I think that is scary. She hasn't posted since this has happened. Hopefully everything's okay, but no one knows as of right now. But I think this is an extremely important situation to talk about because for some reason, people are dismissing it as no big deal, which blows my mind. Like, this is a legitimate case of abuse on stream here. And I don't know why people aren't saying it as such. Granted, most people are, but there still is a community of people that still think it's not an issue and that it's her fault. Why is she staying with an abuser? You know, she brought this on herself. If you're in a toxic relationship, just leave. All things spoken by people that have never even felt the touch of another human being. The absolute worst takes imaginable. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's about it. So yeah. Last night I went to bed really early. I was just all tuckered out, so I said, "Goodbye, moon," and I snuggled on into bed to catch some Z's. Little did I know that while I slumbered, we'd all been paid a visit by someone very special. And I'm not talking about Santa Claus, but I am talking about another man in a red shirt. Nikocado, Avocado. I woke up this morning in a different timeline. I think we shifted back to the Berenstain Bears universe and left the Berenstain Bears universe behind.
2 steps ahead. I am always 2 steps ahead. This has been the greatest social experiment for my entire life. So I am the villain. because I've made myself one.
This moment right here is this generation's I Am Your Father. This is up there with the Darth Vader identity reveal. Perhaps one of the most unexpected things I've seen in quite some time. When I was watching this, I let out an audible whoa. Like, I couldn't help myself. My body responded without any other part of me having say-so over it. My body itself, my soul, was shocked when he took the mask off there. So, he gives like a villain monologue that sounds like it's out of the Fallout universe, talking about how he's 2 steps ahead because he had played the villain for so long now.
Today I woke up from a very long dream. And I also woke up having lost 250 pounds off of my body. Yet just yesterday, people were calling me fat and sick and boring.
Losing 250 pounds is an unbelievable feat that's nothing shy of extraordinary. And he mentions how even yesterday, YouTubers and many other people were calling him sad, fat, depressing, sick, and all of that, and still making videos about him, even while he secretly, over the course of 2 years, had been losing all of that weight, and all the videos that people were talking about were actually videos that Nikocado had filmed 2 years prior and kept drip feeding to the community to keep them either entertained or keep himself fanning the flames of drama for people to latch on to. It is actually very fascinating. Now, some of you might recall about 4 years ago, Nikocado, Avocado, and myself had a tiny bit of beef. I'm talking like a Salisbury steak level of beef between us, and we had a bit of a tinkle-tussle back and forth pissing contest, and boo! Fact check jump scare. I wanted to double check when all of that took place, so I looked at it. It turns out it was 2021 AD. It was late September, so it's coming up on 3 years, not 4. I was a little off on that. Time moves very weird now. I don't know what happened, but time is moving at a different speed than it used to. After all that drama, I had actually kept up with Nikocado Avocado, occasionally just tuning in to check in and see what's going on. I made a video like a year ago on a piece of content that Nick dropped where he actually did talk about a weight loss journey that he was going on, and I've kind of just been cheering him on from the sidelines ever since then, just hoping that he'd follow through on that and just to see where it all goes. So to see this come up was not only extremely surprising, just given how much weight he had lost in a relatively short period of time. I know to a lot of people 2 years, like on the internet terms, that's like ancient history. Things that happened 2 years ago, that might as well be the fucking void century that no one remembers. But like speaking realistically, 2 years to lose 250 pounds, that's a speed run. Those are gold splits.
I haven't made a video for like 2 years, and this is where I'm posting now on this channel, so I hope you consider subscribing if you want. I'm actually posting more next week, so yeah, that would mean a lot to me.
On his second channel, he mentions that it's been 2 years since he's made a video, so you can piece little breadcrumbs together in your head and follow this path here, connecting the dots. He has released videos on all of his channels over the course of 2 years, quite a few of them. Not to the same frequency that he used to, but he still had a ton of videos that he's releasing over the last 2 years. Videos that were posted 2 weeks ago, or even as recent as 5 days ago, where he is that same weight, were all apparently recorded years ago. And it's not like it's CGI and it's not AI-generated content. Nick actually just had a crazy backlog, like the Library of Alexandria for mukbangs, and he just kept going to the vault to upload some of that old pre-recorded content as if it was new, and people were none the wiser. I even went through these 2 videos here in particular just to see if I could find like a date somewhere on like his phone, or when he went to the Heart Attack Grill, like maybe like a calendar sticking on a wall, but I didn't see anything. Maybe I missed it. I did kind of go through it like 2x speed, so maybe it like flashed by really quick and I just didn't see it. But I do believe him that these were recorded years ago, because that's the only logical explanation for how he is 250 pounds down right now, yet 5 days ago he has a video at the Heart Attack Grill where he's still like 400 pounds or whatever it was. Dude was playing chess while the rest of us were playing checkers. He played us like a goddamn violin, and Nick loves the violin. Many of you might not remember this from the Nick expanded universe, the lore, but he was actually an incredible violin player. He was more decorated than like Captain America in terms of accolades when it came to this. Like in his field of violin, he was a very well-regarded, talented player. And he came out here and just fucking Gangnam styled on us. He really did play us like a sweet melody on that instrument.
It was a long 8 years, wasn't it? It was a long 8 years. And I didn't think that it would have gone this long, but it did. And it was like a bad dream that, yeah, it was like a really bad dream that we were waiting for it to be over. And it's over. It was just a dream.
For a long time, Nick became synonymous with breakdowns on camera. Nick and breakdown went together like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that's something people talked about a lot, but then always talked about how it was always fake for views and drama and controversy. I have always somewhat believed that there was always an element of truth to some of the things Nick was saying. I really do believe that Nick was miserable with what he was doing, but felt like he had to keep doing it because that was his source of income. That was his livelihood. And he was probably very afraid to just stop doing that. Which is completely understandable because if people are subscribing to watch you eat yourself to death and you stop doing that, they might leave. And now you've got your ass in your asshole and no money being generated anymore because the audience left from you not doing the content they wanted you to be doing. And I really do feel like he felt like he was a prisoner to that for a while. I'm not trying to be an armchair psychologist here, it's just I've watched a lot of Nick's content and it really does feel like there is a lot of truth to some of the things he has said during these moments. And the way he talks about it here, calling it a bad dream, isn't exactly a glowing review of that time. You know, if someone said that to me, like, hey Charles, I know we spent 8 years together, but it's kind of just like a bad dream I'm done with, I wouldn't exactly be smiling from ear to ear about that. But now Nick has made some big changes, clearly, and his audience is extremely supportive. They are very receptive to this, cheering him on in a big way, pumping their fist and celebrating this. The video on his main channel about it is exploding. The video on his second channel is exploding. He's made 2 videos and both are popping the fuck off. His community is showing nothing but love and oodles of support for this. And it's what people have said for a long time, that if Nick actually did go through this weight loss journey, it'd probably be extremely good for him. Like, not only health-wise, but like in terms of his channels and like his community. It's inspirational. Like, people would love to see that, and I think it's clearly showing here. And it's not like Nick has to stop doing mukbangs just because he loses a lot of weight. And it seems like he is going to continue to do mukbangs because he loves doing them.
We were all just dreaming. Cheers. And I love being a mukbanger. I love food. I like eating food. And I like being here. So let me know what you think.
Just because he's lost 250 pounds doesn't mean that he's washed and you need to hang the jersey in the rafters and retire his jersey number. You know, like, he can still keep doing mukbangs the same way he was before, but now in a healthier place. And like I said last time when he had lost, I think it was like 89 pounds at the time, he seems happier. You know, like, I'm not his therapist. I don't know Nick personally, but just from what comes across in the content, he seems happier at lower weights. Like, in the content where he weighs less, he actually just seems like a happier person. At least that's the impression I get watching it. So it's really something to celebrate here with what Nick has been able to accomplish. And I really am happy to see that the reception to it has been overwhelmingly positive. It is incredible work. This is an effort that is extremely impressive. I'm also really curious and excited to see what Nick does going forward. If he's going to continue to do like exclusively mukbangs, or maybe he's going to talk about this weight loss journey that he secretly went on for a long period of time. I'd be really interested to see like what he did to lose all of that weight so quickly. I think that'd be really interesting content if he talked about it, or, you know, showcased, you know, maybe some of the things he was doing for cardio, or if he was doing weight training, what that looked like. I think that'd be really good bangers, like if he made content around that as well. While still, of course, having mukbang be the bread and butter, I think it'd be cool now if he would supplement it with things about this weight loss journey. The violin, I think, would be cool to bring back, because if you look at Nick's older videos, he really is like a fucking wizard with that instrument. I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of possibility with where Nick currently is. And it's nothing but positives here. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And yeah, that's it. See ya.